there, this is Cindy from Cynthia's Boutique, and you are watching Prosecond with Cynthia. We are here with Sylvia Trundle, a great customer and a wonderful person about town.
Thank you.
We love talking with you every time that you come in. It's just so much fun, and you have such an interesting life. We think. Yeah.
Well, I've been very blessed in my life. I have been retired for about 2.5 years now. But I've always lived in this area. I grew up in Copley. My parents still live in Copley, and I currently live in Akron. So I was a captain with the Akron Police Department. That's what I did upon retirement.
And we think that's so interesting, because here you could be a model. You're tall, you're beautiful, you're charming. You know, and when I first met you, you actually were at one of the houses. You were the police officer outside one of the houses for the BVS home tour.
That's correct.
And somebody introduced us, and I remember saying, what a charming, wonderful lady. And then I started seeing you about town at the country clubs or at nonprofit organizations would have, you know, events. And it's funny how you may see somebody, or they might be at a lot of functions with you, but you don't know until you're actually introduced who they are.
Right.
So I'm so glad I got to know you.
Well, it's been my privilege and honor too, because you guys have helped me look good for a number of years now. I really appreciate that.
That was not difficult.
No, thank you.
But so you live in Akron, and did you meet your husband here in Akron?
Yes, I did, and that's kind of a convoluted story. I went to a party many years ago, and he actually was supposed to have been sort of the date for someone else at the party, but that wasn't going well. And so we started talking, and we were at a vegetable dip tray, and he proceeded to pick up a piece of broccoli and stuck it in my eye. So it was quite a memorable first impression. And
he didn't want you to forget it, but he didn't know what to do.
Yes, right. It was sort of one of those awkward moments, but it was funny. And so we got to talking, and we actually dated for a while, but then went our separate ways for a number of years.
I've heard that happen a couple times.
Yes.
I have a friend that lives in the Dakotas. Same thing happened with her.
And, you know, the timing wasn't right at that first initial meet and greet, which was fine. And then we met years later while we were both working patrol. He was a sergeant with the Talmadge Police Department. I was working for the city of Akron on the night shift, and we met up in the area of Talmadge and Britton on the line of the cities, and just started conversing again. And then the next thing I know, he showed up at my church, Goodyear Heights Methodist at the time was where I attended, and he walked in one day and he said, "Are you with anybody?" And I said, "No." "Are you here with anyone?" He said, "No." So we sat together, and that was it from then on.
Oh my goodness. Now, did you know, were you both police officers at the time of your first meeting?
No, I was actually a dispatcher for the city of Fairlawn, and that's how long ago it was. I started my career in 1979 and started at the Copley Fire and Police Department, and that helped put my way through the University of Akron. And then I was then hired by the city of Fairlawn in dispatch back in 1982. So it was sometime after that I met him. And I always tease him. I said, "You always told me or gave me the impression that women didn't belong in law enforcement." So it was a good thing he changed his mind, or else it would have been probably a no-go.
Now, how did you know and when did you know you wanted to be a police officer?
Well, my initial thought when I was working as a dispatcher was going to the University of Akron. I really wanted to go into either journalism or go to law school. And I still have a passion for both of those, the law and for journalism. But things changed because I got into the exciting arena of law enforcement and the safety forces. And just being exposed to the police and fire activities as a dispatcher really led me to think, this is something maybe I would like to do. It was pretty exciting, and I was talking to a lot of the officers about the incidents they were, handling on the streets, and I was actually the voice behind the radio. And I was their lifeline, and I've always appreciated how important that job of dispatcher was. And it really gave me insight into the safety forces field. So when I decided I was at the city of Fairlawn, I might like to take the police test. It was a time period where they were really discouraging women in law enforcement in that particular department. So I took the test fair and square, and I was passed over. I filed a civil rights violation. That was back in the early 80s. And I was working for the department that I was then suing. It's funny because in my retirement, my mom brought out a lot of articles from the West Side Leader that kind of highlighted my journey of that time frame. And I look back and I'm thinking, I guess as a young girl, that took, a little bit of spunk to be able to go that route.
Which I think you have to have spunk to be a police officer.
You do. You have to really be able to roll with things, and it's a difficult but very rewarding career. But I successfully won my lawsuit and became the first full-time female officer for the city of Fairlawn.
Oh my goodness.
And was there for about a couple of years in the capacity of police officer, but then took the test for the city of Akron's police department, and then the rest is my career at the city for 28 years.
Wow. 28 years with them.
Yes. It was very fulfilling. I had an experience in just about every subdivision we had, from the Juvenile Bureau investigating child abuse crimes, which was very heartbreaking, very difficult, because oftentimes, even today, people don't realize the breadth and depth of the investigations that our detectives do along those areas. I was the department spokesperson for a few years. I was the first full-time one that they ever had. And that was a source of pride, because that means you have to really know your department inside and out, and really work well with everyone at the department to get the information, convey it to the media, and represent our department in the best light. So we've had some PIOs since, and I'm so proud of the job that they do, and just feel that was really great to be part of that initial foray into the world of the media. So I got my journalism, I got my law enforcement.
See, that's great.
It all came together.
Well, and also you're passionate about many nonprofits.
Yes.
And let's talk a little bit about that and how you got involved and which ones. Well, let's just start with that.
Okay. Some of the reasons why I got involved were, of course, my exposure to the needs in the community.
Right.
And one of the greatest ones, and for me, was initially the Victim Assistance Program. And that's how I came to meet Reverend Dr. Bob Denton, who at the time was the head of the Victim Assistance Program. And we had a representative on the board at that time. And when that individual rolled off, I was able to get on the board. But I realized the importance of that service to our community. As an officer, I would respond to crime scenes and find families and people in distress. And, as officers, we're trying to deal with the incident going on, but yet you have a lot of emotional incidents going on with the family member or the community or crowds. And I really appreciated when we would call advocates to the scene that could help deal with that in the aftermath while I was dealing with the investigation. And that just really spoke to my heart of the kind of work that they did. Whether I was going to make a death scene notification to a family member, I would take an advocate, and that really helped provide a buffer. And they could stay there with the family and while I had to go to the next call for service. So I was on that board for a number of years, and to this day, it's an amazing organization headed by Leanne Graham. They still do things like the Angel Tree Ceremony, which was just held in December, and it's in remembrance of all of our homicide victims throughout Summit County. Very powerful. And they just do so much great work in the community.
And so important.
Yeah, very important. Another one would be Open M, which is in the Summit Lake area. And I got to know that organization, again, by being in the community, and you would go to calls for service and see so much need in some of the homes in that particular area especially. Maybe it was people were hungry, there were no beds for the children, lack of health care issues. And I got to meet Father Tim Crouch and was exposed to that organization. And I've now served on that board for a number of years. And that's an amazing organization.
Well, and I think people don't realize, they've got giving trees and things, and they donate for, especially at the holiday time. But they don't realize that there's so many families that don't put themselves out there for help.
Right.
Also. And you probably come in contact as a police officer with a lot of those families that they really aren't getting any help. They're kind of in between, and you can connect them with the right agencies, which I think is so important.
And that's it, because we're the eyes and the ears in the community oftentimes. Going into these homes, the things that you see, and people don't oftentimes understand the resources available. We're rich in resources, but sometimes the communication is a little bit lacking for folks to understand that they do qualify. And if you see something like that and you can make that connection, it's wonderful. So that's what I like now. The officers are being trained in recognizing the needs and then what resources. So that's another area that I'm really supportive of is United Way's taking over of the 211 info line program. And we are really ramping up in the area of 211 for families to know. You call that simple number and they'll find you resources or find the right person that can connect you.
How do they advertise that? I always wondered.
Well, it's a real work in progress, but you're seeing more advertisements on our buses. There are actually street signs being posted along the roadways about 211, because we all know 911.
Right.
311 is a resource for city services, but 211 is a countywide information resource referral.
Well, we certainly hope that people can get that information out a little more, because every community has their needs.
And my mom used it recently. There was an issue about transportation for my dad from one place to another, and Mom was really, what do I do? Who do I call? And I said, well, call 211, and she was helped out. And I was really impressed that, my family was able to utilize the services as well.
That's awesome. Yes, and you've won some awards, and you have an award coming up. Can you tell us about that?
Very excited.
We're so proud of you.
Thank you very much. I was on the Women's Endowment Board for a number of years, and that really introduced me to the wonderful women in this community and the power of putting our efforts together and what we can do to transform when we see needs for women and girls in Summit County. And it was all around economic empowerment, health and wellness, and then safety from violence, which of course was my passion. And we've fundraised for years, and that endowment has really grown. It's very impressive. And every year we do have an annual dinner, and this year it will be March 11th at the Goodyear Hall, and I am blessed to receive the Judy Reed Award from the Women's Endowment Fund. So it's a very exciting time, and even to be mentioned in the name of Judy Reed gives me goosebumps. I knew Judy before she passed away, and her husband Roger. They just were great philanthropists in the city of Akron, and the work that they've done is just very impressive. So very proud of that. So looking forward to celebrating with a lot of ladies in March.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great. That's awesome.
And one other one I'd like to mention is, because of my work, is the Summit County Safety Forces Support Center. And because of the type of work that safety forces are involved in, there are times in the aftermath of critical incidents that they need a little help themselves. And this is an organization that supports that by providing debriefs or one-on-one with everyone in the safety forces, whether it's dispatch, police, fire, anybody in emergency services, and their families.
So important.
Yes. So we have a number of mentors that are actually either retired or active officers that provide that service with counseling services available. And that is now being operated out of the Red Cross on West Market Street. We have an office down there. So please keep that in mind whenever you see an incident where you know that the safety forces are involved, that we want to make sure that they're taken care of as well, because again,
so important. It's important for us also, because they're the ones who are helping protect us and our community. And that's the thing that I'm trying to get through to the younger people. Younger people tend not to volunteer as much. They don't really get as connected with their community, and hence why we try to do this Prosecond with Cynthia. Everything's kind of online, and really you are tied to your community because you live here. So we also will have a lot of these organizations listed below. So check those out. Maybe you can help someone or help yourself, or help the community through one of these organizations that will speak to you.
Here's one more. I could really use help.
Keep going.
I could really use help. Girls on the Run.
Okay.
We'll be starting our spring session March 2nd. And I've been a coach for a number of years at the Jennings Middle School. And that is one of the toughest things, is that organization needs volunteers. You do not have to be a runner. It's not a running program. It is about building self-esteem in our young women. And it ranges from grades 3 to 8. And there's a number of sites, especially in Summit County, that could really use help. And the commitment for me is about an hour and a half, 2 days a week, where we go in particular to Jennings Middle School. We have a curriculum that is provided by the Girls on the Run program, and then we get the girls out to do an exercise. And what this does is culminates in a 5K in spring and in fall. And it is amazing to see when you start out with a young lady that has not even been able to walk that distance. Even if they walk it, they don't have to run it, just finish it. And the sense of pride and accomplishment is amazing. And so we are desperately seeking volunteers, and you can reach out to Robin Cutler at the Girls on the Run program, which their office is now located in Brecksville.
We definitely. All right, you heard it here, ladies. Let's all get involved.
Please.
In fact, I need to learn to run the 5K. I am so out of shape. That should be my New Year's resolution, and I am not getting any younger. So,
All right.
yes.
So anybody,
that's
or
awesome.
reach out to me. I'll be happy to put you in touch with the right people on that.
No, that's great. We love that. So, what do you hope to do this new year? We were just talking about, resolutions a bit, and what do you hope to do differently this year? Is there any programs or any program that you want to inspire more people? Of course, this one, you kind of answered that.
Right, Girls on the Run, because that is our community right there, are the young people.
Right.
And
Get it before something happens,
yes,
and
we're always looking for mentors for the young people, whether it's going into the schools and reading, and I really want to either help find volunteers or do even more than I have been just around that.
It's interesting you said that, because I had once mentioned years ago, and of course I never acted on it, how many of us have good intentions. And my dad used to say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Right. You might think about it, but you never act. You never, try to communicate with other people and form a bond. I always thought seniors, when people retire, they could do so much in our school system by going and reading or supporting the teachers and the children through walking programs or science or what have you, and the enrichment that the school system would get for these kids. And this is a great idea that you have said and mentioned, just going in and reading.
And it's very simple, and you just get so much out of it, and so does that young person, and it just builds a bond, and then they realize that people care about them. And there's a lot of kids out there that just don't feel like they have anyone that will make the commitment and care about them. So then there's the alternative is, unfortunately, running to people like us in the job that I did have. And we want it to be more positive interactions. But there are so many great programs right now, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Girls on the Run, United Way has a mentoring program that don't take a lot of time, but there are so many people that have retired, they have so much to give. That's why it's just not acceptable to sit on the couch and play with the remote. There's a lot more to life.
Right, and you get something out of it. That's what's so
a huge amount.
Yes. So that's something else that we need to all kind of communicate together. Come here in Cynthia's and say, I want to get involved in this, or I've gotten involved. Give us a little bit of information about what you're doing. We would appreciate that and sharing that. Let's talk a little bit about, let's talk about Cynthia's Boutique now. I see that
easy.
You're in a beautiful
I am.
Cynthia's outfit that you had purchased before. And what is it that you like about us?
Well, like this outfit in particular, I've been able to wear this to any number of business meetings. I mean, it's easy to put on, and I know that I was, stylish looking, and it was easy.
Yes.
When those days where you just had to get up and go. But my first indication that I needed to get here was when I have a friend, Elaine Harlan, and she always looks so put together, and she's a tall gal, and I thought, how does she find beautiful, stylish clothes like that? Plus, she travels a lot, and I knew that she would tell me that she could pack her clothes very easily. And so I said, well, where do you shop? She said, Cynthia's. And that's when I started coming. It was when you were over at the Women's City Club initially, and I was getting ready to take a trip overseas, and I thought, I need to find something that looks good, easy to pack, because I like to look at least a little put together. I don't want to be that typical American tourist with sweatshirts and, not that pleasant look. And I just found some really beautiful outfits. And then when I wore them over there, when the tour guy was like, where did you get those pants? And
yes, we hear that all the time.
The Red Mar pants. And so I was hooked. And so it's wonderful to come in if I have an event to go to or just need a look that I'll, can take to business meetings still, because I find myself needing that.
And we love the pictures, and we hear that so many times. Ladies come in and say, oh, I saw so-and-so, or I get more compliments in your clothing than I ever did before. But we love the challenge of helping someone put something together, or or help them, with that one area. Maybe they have a jacket, beautiful jacket they bought, and they're like, oh, why'd I buy this? It was expensive and I don't know what to put with it. Well, bring it in. We don't care that you got it somewhere else.
Right.
We'll help you put together an outfit.
And you're honest about it too. That's what I appreciate. All your staff. I mean, if something doesn't quite look like you or it's not flattering, they'll say something, because I always say
in a nice way.
In a nice way.
And the other thing is we all wear clothes differently. And what I would really like, and I try to explain that to people, because I say I like this size better. If you feel more confident in the other one, if it doesn't look bad, I will tell you. If it needs hemmed, I will tell you.
And you did that the other day when I had the black dress on that I was going to be wearing for an event for Akron General. And you thought maybe this size, and then the other lady thought the other size. So it was a good discussion.
Yes. Yeah.
And you lost.
Yeah.
But it was good. I mean, I appreciate that honesty, because I've always told people I won't go back where if I felt like I'm out in public and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm getting those kind of looks, and somebody told me at a shop that it looked good. Yeah, it's not my favorite thing to experience.
Right, but and we are different, and we try to get people to come out of their box a little bit. Some women need more help than others. And
I did for the dress I took to England for a wedding.
I wanted to talk to you about that, because that's the other thing. I love how you shared pictures with us.
Yes.
We really want to see that. And you bought a beautiful hat.
Right,
and you're in England. And I mean, you look like you were going to the royal wedding. And you got that dress on the sale rack.
I did. It was beautiful, because I think of England and I think of flowers. It came to mind, and it was a June wedding. And I got this dress, and I went over there. So my friend and I, we were in Chester, England, and we were shopping for the fascinator. The ladies had to have fascinators, and I found this beautiful one that was black, and it just really complemented the dress that I got here. So it was fun.
You looked fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous. And we usually put you in, semi-fitted things.
Yes.
And this was really a chemise dress. You wore it so well. So well. It looked gorgeous on you.
Thank you. That was a fun event, and I was comfortable, so I didn't have to think about what I was wearing, because it just was all put together very nicely.
Yeah. Now, are weddings different in England than they are here in the States?
Not so much, but it is a lot of hats.
Yeah, and I love that. Why don't we do that more often? And gloves, and we were just reminiscing about when we grew up. Well, I'm older than you are, but when we grew up, you went to Polsky's, the beautiful scenes in the windows, and then you went to Polsky's tea room, and the little escalators with escalators to see Santa. And times are changing, and there's, kids have different memories and good ones built, but there's something about the past of, dressing up to go somewhere, like you said, not in your sweats. I mean, sweats have a place, and we all love them, but, dressing up makes you feel so good, you look good, and let's face it, I remember a well-dressed woman. I don't really remember those that aren't well-dressed.
And an older friend of mine, we were talking about that very thing, about going to things like the Civic or E.J. Thomas. And I always look forward to looking, feminine, and then you go and people just aren't doing the same. And I remember my grandmother even saying about, wearing the nice dresses and the gloves to go to events. And I still like to have that little bit of a presence and feel comfortable.
And I think a lot of people, because we are such a casual society, they don't feel comfortable dressing. They almost feel like they are in a costume. But I say, embrace that. Feel like you're in a costume and you're dressing up, and you're going to a masquerade party. That's okay. It's okay once in a while. Have some fun. So yeah, that's great. And it's always a pleasure to work with you and to see you. We love it. And we're going to end this with, what's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, the daily one is probably pizza. It's my pizza. But I had one yesterday when you had sent that question as a prompt, and I had one yesterday, and it was after a hike I took. I came back, made myself a rich hot chocolate with butterscotch schnapps and marshmallows. And I thought, that is a guilty pleasure, but it was all good. And I thought, okay, I can share that and encourage people to try that combination, because it was darn good after being out in the cold yesterday.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to have to try one of those.
It was good.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us.